Hi, we're with Diane Namm at the 4th Annual Holly Short Film Festival for a film called The Sacrifice. I want to give a warm welcome to Diane. Lovely, beautiful day here at the Sunset 5 Theater. How are you, Diane?
I'm good, thank you.
What's the film about? Sacrifice. The Sacrifice. Tell us.
The Sacrifice is about the issue of child marriage and child trafficking in the United States, which is a surprising combination of words because you don't think of that usually happening in the United States. But
I was thinking, wait, are we talking about a third world country? We're talking about the good US of A. What's going on here?
There's a number of different communities within the United States who use child marriage and child trafficking as a means of keeping their, of creating domestic labor and of using child labor for manufacturing, and it's cloaked in a religious faith, in their religious faith, but in fact what it is just child abuse that for a long time has been permitted because there's a lot of states that have legislation saying that minors can be married with a judge's consent and or parents' consent. And so they haven't been called to task on it because when it's been brought to the courts, the legislation's been upheld because it's been on the books forever.
I didn't even know that myself. See, Adam, I could have sold you into child slavery, okay? Tell us, what made you really get involved in this issue? Is this something that you were reading upon and you said, I've got to get this word out? What made you want to make a film?
Well, as I had mentioned before and is also in my director's statement, there was a decision made in one of the southwestern state Supreme Courts that upheld the marriage of a minor to a much older man. And because of that legislation that's in that state that says that minors can be married to whomever as long as a judge consents to it and or a parent consents to it. And so I became somewhat upset that that was still something that could be upheld. I had no standing to challenge that case, and I wasn't about to move to that state to start challenging the legislation. And so I did the only thing that I know how to do, which is to write a story about it, and decided to then make my directorial debut about this story.
What's been the response to the film?
Well, it's a disturbing subject. It's a disturbing film. I don't show anything graphic, but nevertheless, everything that's left to the imagination is still quite compelling, and pretty much everyone who sees it is moved by the situation, because what I show is the day that a cult leader comes to take a 13-year-old as his wife, and the family refuses.
See, this is something I might think would occur in another country, but I didn't realize it was happening right here in the United States. When you say minor, 13-year-olds, it seems awful young to get married in America, and there's no legal standing to prevent this?
Well, unfortunately, most of the time families don't resist because it's part of the community that they belong to. And so it is legal if the parent consents and if there is a judge's consent or if that's required by the legislation. And so there's no one to complain most times because the child is part of the community and is afraid to complain or to resist. There have been a number of stories where, the girls do escape, the girls do resist, they do, they go out and they lead different lives, but it's a very difficult thing to do. It's a lot like being a battered wife. When this is the only thing you know and this is the only life you know, you don't assume that there's anything more, and so you don't resist it. But I just wanted to tell the story of what would happen if they tried.
What's your background? Have you been involved in the arts and movies? What made you want to be a filmmaker?
Well, I've been a writer for a really long time, and I started out in children's books, and I published a bunch of children's books for a variety of different publishers. But I've always been interested in the advocacy of children. It informs almost all of my writing. And I've written a number of screenplays, and they were feature length. But I felt that this was a subject that could be handled in a short film format, and I felt that that was a sufficiently accessible format for me to try directing film. I've been directing stage and writing stage plays for the last few years, rather successfully, and so I just felt that this would be a good medium for film and that this would reach a lot more people, and so that's why I decided it had to be done.
What's your next topic? You have another project in mind?
I have a number of projects that are ongoing. I do stage play productions pretty regularly. I'm a writing mentor for at-risk kids, and so I do a production called LA Street Scenes every year. And I incorporate more stories based on more workshops that I do each year for another nonprofit called Create Now. And I take narratives from boys in prison, girls in group homes, and most recently from the Phoenix House drug rehab. And I incorporate them all into a framework story. And then we produce it for a large audience once a year. And so that's coming up in October at the new Los Angeles Theater Center, October 18th. And so that's a pretty big show. And so I hope that everyone will come to that. And then I have another show in December for my nonprofit theater company called West of Broadway, where I adapt literary classics for family audiences and update them and make them interactive so that I keep the classics alive for kids and families who don't ordinarily get the chance to either read them or know about them.
Well, Diane, I want to give you a warm thank you for coming on TrueHollywoodTalk.com. The Sacrifice, check it out. We wish you continued good success.
Thank you.
This is Steve for TrueHollywoodTalk.com.